And we're on Senate Bill 2873?
Yes, please.
Opposition.
Please proceed in opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This session has been, as we well know, has been marked by many, many bills to exempt or repeal or limit environmental reviews. This is one of the few that's remaining. I'm thankful that most of the others have gone by the wayside. This bill would exempt secondary actions from environmental review. And I believe it's a bad idea for the simple reason that sometimes the secondary actions can cumulatively be even greater than the primary actions. So while the argument is that maybe there's a driveway or there's something insignificant along the way that doesn't have much likely impact and therefore we should just exempt it, I stand by what I've said all year, is that somebody has to take a look at the potential impacts. And if the potential impacts are likely to have no significant effect, then they can be exempted. So for that simple reason, I'll keep it brief.
Thank you very much. Any further discussion, members of the House? Representative Johansson.
Thank you. In support with reservations, and may I have permission to insert written comments?
So ordered. In support with reservations, Representative Fontaine.
Reservations, Mr. Speaker.
So ordered. Representative Thielen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Opposition.
Please proceed.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, it's been described that what this bill is doing, which is to exempt secondary actions by statute. The practice of approving statutory exemptions to Chapter 343 is bad policy. It's frankly bad policy. And it seems to be that the Department of Transportation is the poster child for coming to the legislature to ask us to pass these statutory exemptions because it's failing to do its work and where it should go to the Environmental Council and ask for an exemption. The Environmental Council has an exemption list, Mr. Speaker. I served on that body a number of years ago. And the exemption list was always a work in progress, moving as the different departments saw a different action that they might be taken that would actually qualify to be on the exemption list. Department of Transportation, frankly, hasn't used that process as it should have, and they instead come to what they consider a favorable body, the legislature, to say exempt us by statute from these different activities. Well, this bill exempts them from roadway improvements, page 2, lines 6 and 7. The environmental laws are not what is holding up the building process. So removing them will not significantly impact job creation. And it's, I think, pretty clear that an alarming number of these measures have come through this body where people are just, legislators are just saying, fine, we want to streamline everything, get construction moving, and it's the environment that's holding everything up. Well, it's not correct. That the environment is not holding up projects. There's a report called The Economic Impact of Environmental Regulation by Stephen M. Meyer, professor in political science at MIT. And he answered the question, do states with stronger environmental policies pay a price in job growth? And if so, how much? After an analysis, he noted, the odds that environmentalism could be negatively associated with job losses at the state level are extremely poor, slightly more than 1 to 31. We can safely reject the notion that state environmentalism resulted in economically meaningful job losses. If you want to talk about job losses, Mr. Speaker, talk about Act 105, which has hit the construction industry, not for state projects, but the other residential and commercial industry, and has just really had a terrible economic impact on them. Not environmental laws, but an act this body passed, which just slowed down the private sector construction jobs significantly. The act is supposed to expire in 2013, and I hope, for goodness sake, that this is one of those laws that we will allow it to expire, because the tax money that it's brought in has been minimal, and the economic damage it's done has been amazingly large. And you stop and look at why would someone go ahead with a project now with that added tax burden? Why not wait till 2013? And that's evidently what the property owners are doing, is just delaying the projects because of the added costs we impose upon them. I'll go back to the poster child, Department of Transportation. And Department of Transportation requested exemptions for 11 bridge projects. And at least 8 of those have had appropriations since at least the early to mid-2000s.
Yes, Mr.
According
Speaker,
to the OEQC
point of order.
website.
Person Thielen, please hold. Yes,
Point
for
of
purpose
order.
do you rise?
Are we speaking on 2873?
We're
We are-
speaking on the exemptions
Exemption.
which apply to the Department
the
of
secondary
Transportation.
Yes, but there's
To the
nothing about the
highways.
bridges here.
It's-
2873 merely is secondary
Impacts to the free highways.
work, secondary work on the highways, and bridges is not secondary work. So it had what my good friend across the aisle is speaking on is not germane to the bill.
Mr. Speaker, I'll go on with why it is germane to the
Please
bill.
continue, Representative
Department of
Thielen.
Transportation is the poster child for wanting us to pass Senate Bill 2873. It wants to be exempted, and yet they have not
Representative
followed
Pine.
up with
Representative
projects
Pine.
that they have had in the works.
Ward, would you use your time?
I yield my time.
Thank you very much. Please proceed, Representative Thielen.
They have not followed up with, thank you, they have not followed up with projects that they have had in the works. DOT hasn't submitted a draft environmental assessment for at least 2 bridge projects. They also submitted a draft EA without even bothering to follow up with a
Representative Thielen,
final EA
Representative
for
Thielen,
2 projects.
Can you confine
So
your
you go on-
remarks? Can you
I know I'm
confine
talking-
remarks to the bill that is before you?
I will talk about the bill before us.
Please.
And there's a statement that I want to make, that exemptions and statutory exemptions cannot change administrative bungling. And these exemptions will not lead to job creation. We should not be establishing policy in here by doing a knee-jerk reaction to DOT and say, we'll do your work for you. OEQC has said they have no waiting list. They can process these applications for exemptions. DOT has not stepped forward to do the work it should have done.
Mr. Speaker, again, a point of order.
State your point,
The Speaker is
Representative.
speaking on exemptions, and this would remain on this bill here, which has to do with secondary work on particular projects.
Correct.
Only on secondary work and not on exemptions.
Representative Thielen, that's why. Could you please
I'll go
confine
right
your
back to him, Mr. Speaker, and the chair of the Department of the Transportation Committee should know that this bill, Senate bill, is not necessary if the DOT used the exemption process. It doesn't need to have us set policy. It doesn't need to have us set law to do what they themselves should be doing through the exemption list, and there is no wait list for them. So DOT has bungled. We're now being asked to step in and help them. And it's bad policy, Mr. Speaker. I'm firmly against the measure.
Thank you very much.